I'm in Shenandoah National Park, and this is Jarman Gap. This is way down in the Southern District near the bottom of the Shenandoah Park. This is mile marker 97. There's a Skyline Drive. Let's see, right here is a road that ultimately takes you north to the Charlottesville Reservoir along Mormons River. Here's the parking area at Jarman Gap. And there's the Gray Ghost. And I'm going to close up the Gray Ghost, and I am going to go over here and do a little bushwhacking, looking for an abandoned road that came up over the gap here and went down the west side of the mountain over there. We'll see if we can find that and follow that for a ways. The elevation here is 2160. Well, I guess the road's not that hard to find. There's the parking lot. I just crossed over Skyline Drive, and look at this. Heading down the west side. This must be it right here. Let's follow this a little ways and see what happens. Yep, well, here's the road, and parking area is way up there. To block it off, it looks like what they did was they dumped tons and tons of dirt and kind of created a dirt mound. But if you go around that, you won't have any problem finding this. I'm debating whether to get down in the ditch and follow it, or maybe I'll just follow it along the bank here. I may follow it along the bank for a ways. Well, I decided to go ahead and drop down into the ditch. So I'm going to follow this on down a ways and see maybe to the park boundary. Three-tenths of a mile into my hike. I'm down to 2,025 feet and making progress. Some stretches of this are pretty open, like this. This is pretty open. And then back there is kind of a rough stretch right there. But overall, it's not too bad. And then down there's a creek, the drainage. So this road, once upon a time, it's fairly wide. Looks to me like it used to be, you know, major road up and over the mountain up there at Jarman Gap. I'm going to call this Jarman Gap Road West Side. Half mile into my hike. The elevation here is 1,940 feet. That's the way I'm headed. I'm at my waypoint, Jarman Gap 3, JG3, and that's the way I came from. There was a little zigzag in the road there. Now this next stretch again looks fairly open, so let's keep going. Seven-tenths of a mile into my hike. The elevation here is 1,810 feet. That's where I came from. There's been a couple of confusing areas where the road seemingly disappeared, and then I found it again. Partially because I had a bunch of waypoints loaded into my GPS. That's where I came from. I'm at Jarman Gap 4. and this is the way I'm headed. I'll have to dial up the next point and see which, let's see if I've got it dialed up. Yeah, I guess this is the end of the straight ahead stuff, and we're going to go to the left here and follow this down a little ways. I'm headed towards waypoint 5. When I get to 7, I'm expecting to be at the park boundary. Eight-tenths of a mile into my hike, I'm down to 1,780 feet. And I'm at my waypoint 5. I'm basically standing on it. Let's see, that's the way I came from, down here, and then the road comes down here, and at waypoint 5 it makes a hard turn to the right, and there it is right there, heading on down to 6. .85 miles into my hike, I'm down to 1,740 feet. I'm at my waypoint 6, that's where I came from, and the road makes a bend, sharp bend to the left, and heading down to 7, and I'm expecting to be at the park boundary when I get to 7. .9 miles into my hike, I'm down to 1,710 feet. And I'm down to my waypoint 7, Jarman Gap 7. That waypoint is right there. And I'm at the bottom of the mountain now. I don't see a boundary marker here. And it looks like what happens from studying the map again, it looks to me like this just runs along for more than a kilometer following the park boundary, and I don't think I'm going to bother going any further because this is basically the bottom of the mountain right here. So I'm going to turn around and start heading back up towards Jarman Gap. This is a map of today's hike. The quadrangle name is Waynesboro East, 1997. And the purpose of the hike was to bushwhack down the west side of the mountain on Jarman Gap Road. The west side's abandoned. So I decided to go looking for that. This is where you park, right here at Jarman Gap. This is mile marker 97. And the parking lot is on the east side of Skyline Drive, and you just cross over to the west side and start looking around. You'll find the road. And then I just basically followed it down to here. Now I thought when I got to here I'd be outside of the park, but I wasn't. Because this road takes a turn to the west. When you get to here, this road starts to take a turn to the west, and it probably follows along like this for quite a ways. And this is at the bottom of the mountain flat. So once I got to here, I decided not to go any further. Turned around and back up to my car. So back in the day, there was, I guess you'd call it 3 roads here. This one's coming up from the Charlottesville Reservoir along the Mormons River, the South Fork of the Mormons River, and it comes up to Jarman Gap like that. And then this road here comes up the east side, Jarman's Gap Road, and also comes up to the gap right there. And then back in the day, you would have had this road to take you down the west side of the mountain. So, considering this has probably been abandoned since they opened the park, almost 100 years ago. Considering that, this road's in pretty good shape. Hopefully you'll see that from the pictures and the video clips. Fairly short hike, 1.8 miles. and a total ascent 472 feet. And that was the hike for today.